வந்து வந்துருச்சா?
வந்துருச்சு.
ஓகே ஓகே வாங்க வீடியோல வாங்க. நான் வந்துருச்சு. நேம் வருது. இப்போ வீடியோவை எஸ் நாங்கள் சார் இருக்கார். குட் மார்னிங் குட் மார்னிங்.
ஹலோ
ஹலோ எல்லாத்தையும் மூட் பண்ணுறேன். அதை மூட் பண்ணிட்டேன்.
அவருக்கு அன்மியூட் பண்ணிட்டேன் சார். எஸ் சார், we can hear you.
Okay.
Yes, sir, we can hear.
Sure. Please allow me to share my screen.
Yes, hello. Screen is on.
You have disabled my.
மதிப்பிற்கும் மரியாதைக்கும் உரிய தியாகராஜர் கல்லூரியினுடைய செயலாளர் திரு ஹரி தியாகராஜன் அவர்களே, இந்த அருமையான நிகழ்ச்சியை மக்களுக்கு கொண்டு சேர்த்து கொண்டிருக்கின்ற செல்லமுத்து அறக்கட்டளையினுடைய தலைவர் திரு டாக்டர் ராமசுப்ரமணியன் அவர்களே, எங்களுடன் இணைந்திருக்கும் தியாகராஜர் கல்லூரியினுடைய முதல்வர்களே மற்றும் டைரக்டர் அவர்களே, இந்த பயிற்சியை அருமையாக கொடுத்துக் கொண்டிருக்கும் என்னுடைய அருமை நண்பர்களே, எங்களுடைய பதிவாளர் அவர்களே, உங்கள் அனைவருக்கும் என்னுடைய காலை வணக்கத்தை தெரிவித்துக் கொண்டு இந்த அருமையான நிகழ்ச்சியை பல கல்லூரிகளுக்கு எடுத்துச் சென்று கொண்டிருக்கின்றோம். நான் இந்த பயிற்சியினுடைய பயனை சொல்வதற்கு முன்னால் பெருமையாக சொல்வது என்னவென்றால், நான் தியாகராஜர் கல்லூரியினுடைய பழைய மாணவர் என்பதை உறுதிப்படுத்துகின்றேன். அதை தவிர இன்னும் மேலும் சொல்ல போனால் என்னுடைய ஆராய்ச்சி
Hello.
இதில் கலந்து கொள்வதற்கு தயாராக இருக்கிறார்கள். அதை பார்த்தவுடன் எனக்கு தோன்றியது, தியாகராஜர் கல்லூரியினுடைய முதல்வர், அவரை சார்ந்த அத்துணை ஆசிரியர் பெருமக்களும் எவ்வாறு உண்மையிலேயே இந்த நிகழ்ச்சியை முக்கியமாக எடுத்துக்கொண்டார்கள் என்பதை அந்த பார்ட்டிசிபென்ட் நம்பரை வைத்து தெளிவாக தெரிகிறது. ஆகவே இங்கு இருக்கும் என்னுடைய மாணவ செல்வங்களுக்கு நான் கூறுவதெல்லாம், இது கட்டாயப்படுத்தி நடத்தும் ஒரு நிகழ்ச்சி அல்ல.
Sir, permission has been given to you. You can share your screen, sir.
நீங்களாக இதில் உள்ள கருத்துக்களை தெளிவாக புரிந்து கொள்ள வேண்டும். புரிந்து கொள்ள வேண்டிய கருத்துக்களை மக்களுக்கு சரியாக எடுத்துச் செல்ல வேண்டும் என்பதை இங்கே நான் முதலிலே பதிவு செய்கின்றேன். ஏனென்றால் மதுரை காமராஜர் பல்கலைக்கழகத்தின் உதவியுடன் செல்லமுத்து டிரஸ்ட் அவர்களும் நிம்ஹான்ஸ் எனப்படுகின்ற பெங்களூரில் உள்ள
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear the audio properly. Audio
Mute again. Tell me.
Mute mo na halo. But ang kai ni harmang yang nadi.
Dalam dia punya pusing. Sound tu memang absent kuki raya.
Option chunche.
Aye.
Hello. Hello.
Sir, I can't hear anything.
Could you hear me? Hello.
Yeah.
Hello. Okay.
Yes, sir, we can hear.
Sure.
Mute kello.
Hello. Okay. But anyway, I could hear you.
நல்ல கல்லூரிகள், உயர்ந்த நிலையில் இருக்கும் கல்லூரிகள் இதற்கு முழுமையாக பாடுபட்டு, ஏனென்றால் மதுரை காமராஜர் பல்கலைக்கழகம், மதுரை தியாகராஜர் கல்லூரியும் பல கிராமங்கள் இருக்கின்றன. அந்த கிராமத்தை நம்மளுடைய மாணவர்களுக்கும் போய் சேர வேண்டும், அவர்களுக்கு இதை என்பதை உறுதியாக தெளிவாக அவர்களுக்கு எடுத்துச் சொல்லி நாம் விரும்பவும் சொல்லுகிறேன், வெற்றி அடைவோம். வெற்றி அடைவோம் என்பது ஏதோ சொல்லி இருக்கக்கூடாது, செயலிலும் இருக்க வேண்டும். ஏனென்றால் தங்களை தாங்களே தனிமைப்படுத்திக் கொள்ள வேண்டும், இந்த மாஸ்க் அணிய வேண்டும் மற்றும் தங்கள் உடைமைகளை சுத்தமாக வைத்துக் கொள்ள வேண்டும், மற்றவர்களுக்கு அறிவுரை கூற வேண்டும். திரு ராமசுப்ரமணியம் அவர்கள் போல இன்று நாம் இறப்பு குறைந்திருந்தாலும் கூட அதற்கு காரணம் நம்மிடம் இருக்கும் எதிர்ப்பு சக்தி. இதை நாம் இன்னும் அதிகமாக முன்னேற்றி மக்களுக்கும் முன்னேற்றி நாம் இதிலிருந்து வெற்றி பெறுவோம் என்பதை உங்களிடம் பதிவு செய்து இந்த அருமையான வாய்ப்பை கொடுத்த அத்துணை நல்ல உள்ளவர்களுக்கும் நன்றி கூறி விடைபெறுகின்றேன். நன்றி, வணக்கம்.
Can I start now? And now it is enough.
Join with the audience.
Audio கொடுத்து வச்சு மியூட்ல இல்ல.
நான் பேசுன கேட்க முடியுது.
கேக்குதா? நான் பேசுறேன்.
ஓ சார்
கேக்குதா? கேக்குதா?
ஓ சார் கேக்குது. உங்களுக்கு கேக்குதா?
கேக்குது. ஆரம்பிச்சிடலாமா?
இந்த வீசி முடிச்சிட்டாங்க அந்த வாதம்.
ஓகே.
ஒரு நிமிஷம்
ஆரம்பிக்கிறேன். ஓகே.
இந்த ஒரு நிமிஷம் வீசி வந்துடுறாங்க.
ஓகே ஓகே வந்தப்புறமா சரி சரி ஓகே ஓகே ஓகே
இதுல போட
மெயில் போட்டு போட்டுக்கிறேன் சார்.
Hello.
Professor, just a minute. VC will come and attend. Okay. என்ன மெயில் போட போறோம்?
எனக்கு தான் சார்.
அந்த லிங்க் கையில் எடுத்து வீசி அங்க உட்காரும். லைவ் கொடுத்துட்டு லைவ் கொடுத்துட்டேன். பேசினா கேட்குதா? ஆமா வெங்கடாச்சலம் MIDS மெட்ராஸ் மேத்தமெட்டிக்கல் இன்ஸ்டிடியூட் மெட்ராஸ் இன்ஸ்டிடியூட் ஆஃப் டெவலப்மெண்ட். Professor Venkadachalam.
Good morning, Professor.
Good morning, sir.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Yes. Okay. Yes.
Sir, I have to thank personally to you.
Oh, thank you so much.
Come over here and helping our Madurai Kamarajar faculty Dr. Sadasivam, to take your valuable message to different participants, right, through webinar. So thank you very much, sir. We are all waiting for your valuable speech. Before that, I thought that you have some formal inauguration. Yeah, okay. So they have some formal inauguration. So then we can proceed, sir. Please.
Thanks.
Good morning to everybody. Professor Venkatachalam and Honorable Vice Chancellor Professor M. Krishnan and other participants of this webinar on behavioral changes in the post-COVID-19 era. As we are all aware of the fact that coronavirus has led to COVID-19 disease pandemic all over the world, as of now, we have lost many lives in India. So in this context, Social Transformation Center of Madurai Kamaraj University has planned to organize a webinar with experts like Professor Venkatachalam from MIDS, and in the evening between 2 p.m. to 3 p.m. we have planned a session with the help of Professor Arunachalam from Cochin University of Science and Technology. Now, the webinar on the first session will be inaugurated by the Professor M. Krishnan, Vice Chancellor of Madurai Kamaraj University. After that, it will be handed over to the resource person, Professor Venkatachalam. Good morning to everybody. Thank you, one and all, for participating in this webinar. Over to Vice Chancellor.
Good morning, sir. Good morning to Dr. Venkatachalam. Going to talk about the behavior changes after COVID problem, and also Dr. Sadasivam, who is really, put in a lot of effort to bring this webinar, and my dear participants from different parts of the country. I am so thankful to all the good-minded people for giving the permission and giving the opportunity to give the inaugural address. You know that we have a lot of problem for the last 40-50 days. But the people who were really affected are going to take care by the government of Tamil Nadu and government of India by giving the medical care. There is no doubt about it. They are now in good care by the government of Tamil Nadu. But one good thing what we are noticing that here about 70,000 people are now affecting in Tamil Nadu by this coronavirus. But unfortunately, we can say that the people are not affected is going to have more psychological problem. But one thing, happy news is our death rate is very low, even less than 1%. That is a wonderful data our government is giving. But what this program is going to give, the people, those who are not affected, living in the different part of the country, because they are having a lot of problem. Not only the behavior change, they are having psychological problem, psychosociological problem, economic problem, and the societal problem. So like that, they have a lot of problem with respect to the COVID-19. But how we are going to come out? It's very difficult. So what Madurai Kamaraj University is doing last 40 days, how we can, give the message to the public. For that, we are giving some training for psychosociological aspect to get some trainer where they can go to the villages and give the message. What you have to do that? How we can come out from the psychological problem. For example, you can see that Madurai Kamaraj University is giving or provided the hostels and also the guest houses for these people coming from different parts of the country. Particularly Maharashtra, Madhya Pradesh, Bihar, Gujarat, the people are coming to Tamil Nadu. But immediately we are not going to keep their, the people in their house. So they need some isolated places where we are giving the, the bed and every facilities. But the Madurai Kamaraj University is surrounded by more villages. So the village people oppose this first because they're afraid of that these people will bring the COVID to the village people. Then I called all the people. These are not the affected people. They are coming from outside the Tamil Nadu, where we are suspecting that they may have some problem. So even for that, there is a problem around the villages of Madurai Kamaraj University. For the village people, I am saying that. But you see that, how that the public is going to affected by this COVID. So for that, they expect like Venkatraman to give a proper way, proper knowledge to the participant. By that, the participant go to their own respected area. Number one, their family should be taught properly. The family should know that what is the COVID, how it's going to affect. You should not have any psychosociological problem. Then they have to talk to their friends, talk to their relatives, talk to the village people. Like that, if the message goes, definitely it's also at what you called, we are ready to fight with the co-virus, but your lecture will give us more strength to the participant to fight with the co-virus. By that, definitely we will get the success out of it. So once again, thank you very much, sir. You are going to give a very good lecture about the behavior changes of COVID-19. Our Sadasivam, I think, approached so many people as a participant. They are here. I don't know how many people are joining now. I think more than 100. So 100 will go 1,000, 1,000 will go 10,000, 10,000 will go 1 lakh. Such a way, we have to train the people. This is one among the best way to fight with the co-virus. But kindly, the people who participated here, kindly assure that you are isolated yourself, you are wearing the mask, and you are having all that cleanliness in your daily routine life. By that, definitely we can increase our immunity. By that, we can fight most strong against this COVID-19. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you, my speaker, and also that Dr. Sadasivam for giving a wonderful opportunity. Thank you, participants. Kindly, it's a voluntary program. We are not compelling anybody to be here as compulsory. So kindly take care of you and take care of yourself and give the message to other public and also the society. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you,
sir. Thank you.
Sir, and resource person Dr. Venkachalam and other participants for the kind information of the Vice Chancellor and the resource person. This program was well received by 666 participants. Actually, this much participants have registered themselves, but this Zoom meeting app is allowing only 100 to participate online. Others will view through Facebook Live. It is going on, and YouTube Live also, I think so. Facebook alone. So your lecture will be screened in the Facebook also. This is for your kind information. With this information, Social Transformation Center of Madurai Kamaraj University is once again welcoming you all. Now the session will be handed over to the resource person, Dr. L. Venkatachalam, Professor RBI Chair, Madras Institute of Development Studies, Chennai. Thank you, one and all. Now over to resource person, Professor Venkatachalam. Venkatachalam, sir. Now you can start. Thank you.
All of you.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Yeah. So good morning to all of you. First of all, I would like to thank Honorable Vice Chancellor for having come and inaugurated this session, and then for the very nice introduction. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you for your valuable time spent with us. Thank you, and thank you. Yeah. So I would like to thank Dr. Sadasivam also, as indeed taken effort to coordinate the webinar, and the Department of Social Transformation for having invited me. Yeah. On the behavioral issues involved in dealing. So basically, so how we are going to deal with this situation in future. So that's the focus of the talk today, and I will question over this forum. So, post COVID-19 era. So, as all of you know, most of the countries, they follow economy. Now, almost all countries, except very few of them, economy, they take globalization as the major kind of platform to expand their wealth of nations, especially the size of the gross domestic product. Okay, so how do you expand gross domestic product? As Adam Smith, in his very famous book called The Wealth of Nations, which was published in 1776, suggested it is basically the market forces, basically the capitalism, which will expand the GDP of nations much faster than nations that follow other forms of economic development. So therefore, he suggested that we have to rely on the markets, which are invisible in nature. Markets are considered to be invisible hands. So in every country that follows market-oriented economy, we find the markets to play a major role in improving the welfare of the people, actually, right? So the invisible hand plays a major role in bringing positive benefits or improved welfare to the individuals. Of course, there are countries that do not follow hardcore capitalism like China, Sweden, all these countries. They are following socialist pattern of the society, actually, where the government plays a major role along with markets in certain places, right? So limited market and more government is the phenomenon in some of the countries like China and Sweden. But most of the countries adopt invisible hand, that is market, to play a role. Okay, that we have to keep in mind. But now in February or towards the first part of March, what happened was that we had invisible hands in the form of coronavirus. Coronavirus could not be seen. Of course, if you look at the picture of the coronavirus, it has so many hands actually, which could not be seen. So the coronavirus also carries invisible hands. But what these invisible hands have done is, they have destroyed most of these economies in the world. Not only the capitalist system based economies, but also the economies that follow the socialist pattern of society, like Russia, China, Sweden, all these countries actually. Of course, Sweden is a kind of different kind of country in terms of COVID impact. I will come on to that later on if there is time. But the COVID-19 with its invisible hands have completely destroyed the economies. And as our Honorable Vice Chancellor rightly said, the COVID-19 has also devastated or adversely affected the health and livelihoods or lives of the human beings. Okay, so there are a lot of sufferings because of COVID-19, and you have other consequent economic and environmental problems. Economic problems like job loss, income loss, and so on. So, okay, so this is the kind of picture that we are already familiar with. But now, the point is, COVID-19, the coronavirus, is going to be with us. This is what many of the scientists have suggested. Actually, many scientists are telling us that, look, COVID virus is not going to go by August or September this year. It is going to stay with us, like dengue virus. Every year it comes, goes back, like that. So COVID is also going to be with us, and therefore we are going to live with COVID virus. That is the coronavirus, actually. So how are we going to live with this virus? So what is the new normal? Many people suggest that we are going to live a new normal life. In other words, the kind of life that we led before COVID is not going to be the life that we are going to live after COVID-19. Okay, our entire life is going to be different. Similarly, many economists argue that the economies that we had in the past before COVID-19 episode are not going to be the same economies that are going to be there after the COVID-19 episode, actually, in the coming years, actually, right? So this is what is called new normal. What is that new normal? We are going to lead a completely different kind of life, and we are going to have a different kind of economies. Okay, so now how are we going to deal with this particular crisis that is going to be in future as well? Okay, and we need to understand certain fundamentals, namely, for all our decision making, whatever the kind of decision that you require, you need information. For example, if you want to get married, you need to know more information about your life partner, their families, and so on and so forth. Okay, and even if you want to buy a milk packet, you need information. Where do you want to buy it, and the price of it, so on and so forth. Okay, so for every decision, whether it is a very kind of long-term decision like marriage, or a short-term decision like buying milk or something like that, whatever the decision that you take or you make, you have to depend on information. Okay, so your decision depends on information. Ultimately, your decision will determine your behavior. When we talk about behavior, you have to talk about decision. When you talk about decision, you have to talk about information. Okay, but now, what kind of the information that we are accessing, basically, or what kind of the information is available in the environment or in the ecology or the ecosystem that we are living in, which will help us to change our behavior, which will help us to take decisions that would in turn change our behavior, right? So fundamentally, information is very important. But at present, the information about many things is not available. For example, when I was preparing for this lecture for the past 2 days, I could not get a lot of information about the kind of future behavior. There is purely uncertainty about what kind of the behavior that we are going to practice in future, and whether we can expect all the people to behave in a particular manner so that we can deal with the COVID-19 crisis in future also. I didn't have any idea. So therefore, even this lecture is based on very limited amount of information that I could access. Okay, there may be so many other forms of information, but I could not access them. Similarly, our economy, how our economy is going to be, nobody knows. Some people say that, look, economy will revive within 6 months, or within 2 years. Or some people say, look, it is going to be a permanent crisis. The economy will revive only after 5 years, and so on and so forth. We don't have any idea. Similarly, about COVID-19, we don't have any idea how this virus is going to behave, how it is behaving right now, and so on and so forth. Okay, when information is not available, how do we take this decision? Okay, so this is very important. So information is very important, but at present, most of the people are dependent on narratives. What is narratives? Narratives are the kinds of information available from different sources. For example, every day we look at WhatsApp, and then people provide information through WhatsApp, and then there are people who take this information seriously and then take a decision. Similarly, we get a lot of information from. The point here is that what is the authenticity of this information? Can we rely on this information? For example, if I get some information from WhatsApp, whether I can take a decision on the basis of the WhatsApp message, I don't know. So therefore, there is an information uncertainty, and when there is uncertainty over available information, how are we going to deal with the situation? Okay, let us first talk about some of these statements. Okay, I have been reading newspapers, watching TV channels, and then hearing people, and then reading messages coming from WhatsApp also. I don't believe in messages coming from WhatsApp, but I do also pay attention to this information, because how sometimes wrong information is being generated by people, and how this wrong information indeed affects people's behavior in the real world. So I'm keen on this, and therefore I read all kinds of information with whatever kind of constraints I have. So is a constraint, time is a constraint, and so on and so forth. So let me just read some of these kinds of statements that I have come across from various sources, okay, which can be called narratives. These are the examples for narratives, actually. Right now, if you look at the death rate among COVID-19 patients, it is only 2.86, which is less than 3% in India. But in USA, it is considered to be around 7%. In Italy, 10%. Why the death rate is very high in advanced developed countries, and why death rate is very low in India? And there may be several reasons. For example, many scientists argue that it is because of BCG vaccination that prevents the people from getting COVID-19, because BCG already has improved your immune system, etc. There are some people who argue that the Indians are already having a lot of immune kind of immunity, because we are all living in a very poor condition, and therefore this very poor condition as such might have improved our immune system, and therefore they are not getting much affected by COVID-19. And there are people who argue that in India malaria is prevalent everywhere, and therefore if you get infected with malaria, and then if you had already taken hydroxychloroquine, then the immune system would have been developed in your body, and so on and so forth. There may be several reasons which we may have to find out, because in social sciences there is no single reason which can explain a particular outcome. There may be several reasons. Okay, so I would like the youngsters to take up this as a research issue and find out what can be the possible reasons for low death rate and a less impact of COVID-19 on Indian population. Okay, but the point here is that I have interacted with many people initially when COVID entered India. I interacted with many people about the possible impact of COVID-19. Many people were panicked. So they said, we are all going to die, and this problem is going to be very severe, and so on and so forth. But they are all concerned about people getting killed by COVID-19. How many people are getting killed? It's just 3% out of total number of people getting affected by COVID-19. The point here is we are all concerned more about the small percentage of death. But we are not concerned about around 97% of cure that makes lot of positive difference among COVID-19 people. Why are we not celebrating 97% of people being healthy with COVID-19 virus? So why we are concerned about 3% death, get panicked out of it, and not concerned about 97% kind of cure among the people. Okay, that's one thing. Second thing is, if you look at number of deaths among the COVID patients, it is much smaller than the number of deaths caused by cancer, tuberculosis, pollution, and so on and so forth. No, the common kind of conventional diseases, they are killing more number of people, large number of people, millions and millions of people. For example, I read one report in 2019. It's called the Lancet Committee report on pollution. So Lancet Committee report says that around 18 lakh people are getting killed every year by air pollution alone in India. In India, every year, 18 lakh people, 1.8 million people are getting killed by air pollution alone. If you take cancer, if you take TB, if you take hepatitis B and other kinds of diseases, then the number of people getting killed by these diseases is much higher than that of COVID-19, basically. But still, we are panicked. We are panicked about some, today it was around 4,537 people for the past 3 months. In India, 4,537 people have been killed by COVID-19. But if you take the killings by other diseases, that may be, tens of thousands of, people might have been killed. Okay. The third point is that there are people who still argue that coronavirus has been developed by China in their labs, actually, biolabs. Okay, so there are stories actually. Even America has suspicion that coronavirus has come from the labs in China. But there are people who say, look, this is a kind of, very invalid theory. Coronavirus occurred naturally, even though it originated in China, it occurred naturally. It's a kind of natural virus, okay? So there are two different types of information about the origin of coronavirus, whether it is developed in the labs or whether it has been developed or whether it has originated naturally, okay? Then let us come on to the other kind of information. There are many people who argue that COVID-19 is the piracy of the international pharmaceutical companies. For example, there are some, so-called traditional medical practitioners. I listened to the videos of some of these people who have been later on jailed. I found that these people claiming that COVID-19 is nothing but it is a piracy by the international pharmaceutical companies, because they want to sell medicines, they want to exploit people, and therefore they developed the story of COVID-19. But there are people who argue, but also we see that it is not so. The COVID-19 is a kind of real issue which we will have to face with. Okay. You look at another information. There is no COVID-19 in India. It's only a story developed by the central government. There are people who argue like this. Okay. Because there was some CIA protest, and therefore central government developed this story of COVID-19. Indeed, there is no COVID-19. So, but this is also a kind of myth, because we are it's a kind of flawed kind of argument. We are we are experiencing COVID-19 crisis in reality. Okay, and then one vegetable vendor tell me that central government is giving 60,000 67,000 rupees to the states for each COVID patient, and that is why the number of COVID patients is increasing in state government. So people, see, as I said, many people depend on the narratives. Okay, so what others say, we some of this information very serious. For example, very recently, when the Tasmart shops were opened, people saying that look, if alcohol, if you are telling us that we have to wash our hands with soaps, or we have to sanitize our hands with alcohol-based sanitizers. If alcohol kills this COVID-19 virus in our hands, therefore it should also kill the virus inside. And let us take alcohol. Okay, so the drunkards, the people, those who are consuming alcohol, so they develop actually alcohol kills COVID-19 virus, and therefore Tasmart shops will have to be opened so that everybody or the drunkards have alcohol actually, right? You look at the logic. They're acting like PhD scholars actually, using logic to develop arguments. Okay? So, and then you look at other information like COVID-19 affects only the older people, but what we see is that it affects everybody, all age groups actually. And then there are people who argue, especially in Tamil Nadu, that look, government says that there is no medicine for curing COVID-19. Then how come all these COVID-19 affected people are getting cured? Where is the medicine? The counter argument is that look, the symptomatic treatment is being given to people. In Tamil Nadu, for example, we also give the alternate medicines like Siddha, Ayurvedic, etc., in order to improve the immune system, and therefore people are getting cured actually. Okay, and then 2 days back there was a kind of controversy over this. Siddha medicine called Kabasura Kudinir. Everybody now drinks Kabasura Kudinir, but there are people who argue that look, the Kabasura Kudinir is not going to improve our immune system. It may cause some side effects, so on and so on. So which one to believe? Whether I should drink Kabasura Kudinir on the basis of the information that it will improve my immune system, or should I listen to other doctors, the allopathic doctors who say, look, don't drink that Kabasura Kudinir because it will have some other impact also, or it will not improve the immune system. And then now look at hydrochloroquine tablets. This medicine has been exported to many countries from India, but now the latest information is that America has stopped testing this hydrochloroquine because they found that this medicine is having some side effect or something like that. Now the point is, whether I should take hydrochloroquine in order to prevent myself from COVID-19, or I should not take. Okay, there are two different types of information available to me. Similarly, there are people who argue that face mask will prevent you from COVID-19, or face mask will help others, because in case we have COVID-19, then face mask will not spread COVID-19 to others. Okay, but there are theories which say that look, face mask is not going to help anybody in any way. Okay, so which one to believe? Similarly, there is a controversy over this Arogya Setu. Central government says that everybody will have to download Arogya Setu, but there are people who say that no, this is not going to help us. Similarly, people argue that more testing in India needs to be done, but there are people who say that look, even if you do more testing, there are people who are asymptomatic, or they may be negative now. Maybe tomorrow they may become positive, and therefore will you be testing each individual every day in order to find out whether they are positive or negative? So you cannot do that. But these people argue that look, let us have this herd immunity. Let us allow the COVID-19 to spread in the community so that we can develop immune system, herd immunity it's called, among the community it can develop, and then it will prevent future spread of COVID-19. Okay, so that's the kind of argument. Now the point is whether we have to do more testing or whether we have to rely on herd immunity. Okay, so that's the kind of decision that we have to take. A very interesting argument I had come across with. For example, people, as I said, who argue that we have to open up the economy and allow the people to move around by encouraging herd immunity. But these people argue that look, older people are dying, and therefore we cannot. No, the counter argument to this is that look, older people are dying, or people with comorbidities are getting killed by COVID-19, and therefore let us not open it up. Let us continue with the lockdown. But these people argue, the counter argument to this is that look, anyway, the people, those who are dying, are going to die in another 2 years or 3 years. So that I mean, herd behavior actually, right? So similarly, there are many issues. There are different types of information that we are encountered with. Okay. Now the point here is which information that we have to take in order to take a decision. Okay. For example, whether we continue or whether the economy should be opened up. There are arguments for both. Whether more money has to be pumped into the economy, which is what is Keynesian approach? You pump more money now, so people's purchasing power will increase, and as a result, they will buy more goods and services, and as a result, the economy will revive. But there are Friedman type of argument, which says that if you pump in more money, then 5 years down the line you will have more inflation, less employment, or more unemployment, and therefore you should not pump more money. So which one will have to be believed? Whether the government should pump more money or whether the government should use the liquidity approach, namely providing more loans which may come back later on, so that we can control inflation and so on and so forth. So for everything, there are many different types of information available, and the question is which information will have to be taken to make a decision regarding COVID-19. Okay. So that is a major issue. So how are we going to solve this problem, informational problem? See, most of us do believe in false narratives because that is found to be very interesting. It is found to be very comfortable for us, and therefore we fall into the trap of accepting false narratives. Okay, so most people do not have the ability to choose good information as well as to process that good information. I may have access to good information, but may not be able to process that information for taking a particular decision, important rational decision. Or I may not have the ability at all to choose the right information. Okay, so these are some of the things that are found by the behavioral economists who do field research. And sometimes what behavioral economists have found is sometimes too much information also does not help us. Okay, as long as you have very limited information, you can take a decision which may become rational decision. But when you have more information, too much information, you not only don't have the ability to process this information, but also sometimes the decision that you take on the basis of this too many information or too much of information will become irrational. Okay. Similarly, there are many information related behavioral issues. I don't want to go deeper into all those kinds of things. But now, how do we get or how do we provide authentic information for the people to take a rational decision? Okay, right now, do we have any mechanism by which we can get authentic information about COVID, about the economy, about the health impact, about the migrant laborers, about the other whole lot of other issues in current crisis actually. Okay, so we need to think about how to provide authentic information to the people and how to develop certain mechanisms which authentic information can be provided to the people, as well as we can help the people to make right kind of decisions. Okay, so right now I think that is not there because people depend on narratives, people depend on false information, and we all will have to think about developing the right kind of information to the people taking decisions in the coming years actually. Okay, the second issue is different people behave in different ways actually. You cannot expect all the 130 crore people in India to follow social standards, to wash their hands with, to use sanitizers, or to adhere to the lockdown norms. Okay, so can you expect all of us to follow these norms carefully, strictly? Definitely not. Okay, during lockdown, most of the people prefer to go out. They don't want to sit at home and do the work actually, right, to be safe. But most of the people go out. When they go out, they don't wear mask, face mask, they don't follow social distancing, etc., etc. Okay, so I have myself seen lot of people violating the norms set by governments and the experts actually. Okay, as I said, some of them don't wear masks, some of them don't wear mask, or don't follow social distancing. Yesterday, I saw one lady washing hands with soap. Okay, I went outside and there they have kept this water and soap dispenser actually. So she was just using it and then she did it like this, and not even 20 seconds, minimum of 20 seconds to wash the hands for minimum of 20 seconds. But it was not even 5 seconds, she just applied, washed, and then went. So there is no use. Even if people are willing to wash their hands, they are not washing it properly actually. Okay, so there are people who behave differently. So either knowingly or unknowingly, the people's behavior is different from each individual. Okay, so when COVID-19 patients are asymptomatic, sorry. So how are we going to deal with them? So if you are following all the norms, if others don't follow all the norms, so what should be your behavior? So let me use a very simple game theory which is being widely used by economists and social scientists to explain people's behavior actually. For example, in a society, so you are there, right? And we have others because we have to interact with people every day in different contexts, and therefore every day when you go out, for example, you are there, and along with you there are other people who are also behaving like you. Okay, suppose you go to a meat shop, not only that you are going there to buy meat, but also there are people who come over there. Now, as I said, not all the people will behave in a similar way. So when different people behave in different ways, so how are you supposed to behave? Okay, so that's the kind of issue that we face with. Now, let us say that you are following all the norms, which is called cooperation. Okay, could you see the cursor going on around this cooperation, right? So this means that you are cooperating and others are cooperating. That means that others are also following social norms, the norms set by the government, namely social distancing, hand washing, etc. What will happen is there is no impact. The COVID impact is zero. If everybody, you, others in the community are following the norms, there is no COVID impact. That is why it is 0, 0. Zero impact for you, zero impact for others. But if you are following all the norms, cooperating, and if others are not following the norms, then what will happen is others will get COVID. There is a high chance of others getting COVID. They may not wear masks, they may not follow social distancing, and therefore they will suffer from COVID impact. That is why it is -10. The impact will be very high for the others, those who are not following the norms, but it will be 0 for you. You will not get any impact because you are following all the norms. Now, if you don't follow all the norms, if others follow all the norms, others will not get affected by COVID-19, but you will get affected, and therefore you will suffer from COVID-19. That is why it is -10. Now, let us look at no cooperation. No cooperation across individuals in the community. You are not following any norms. Others are also not following any norms. Therefore, everybody will get affected, and that would lead to a situation where India will have around 60 crore people getting affected by COVID-19. If nobody follows any norms, what will happen is that maybe 2 months or 3 months down the line, India will end up with 60 crore people getting affected by COVID. So the best strategy is to follow the norms, because if others don't follow the norms, you will not get affected, and therefore it is better to follow the norms so that you will not get affected by COVID-19. Best strategy under COVID-19 crisis is to follow the norms. Everybody should wear mask. Everybody should follow social distance and so on and so forth. That is what it should follow the norms. Under future situation, you have to follow the norms. Okay, so how do you make the people to follow the norms? We have to create more awareness. Right now, everywhere in the phone, when you try to call somebody, there is an awareness message. When you watch TV program, once in every 10 minutes, you get awareness message about COVID-19. Even our chief minister comes on TV and then tell us that we have to maintain social distance, we have to be very aware of this disease, all kinds of things. So awareness is there. But despite all these awareness campaigns, messages, why the roads are crowded? Why roads are crowded? Why people go in large numbers to Coimbatore market to buy vegetables, right? Coimbatore created a lot of chaos, sometimes back. Of course, now it has been closed. But when the COVID the cases are increasing in Tamil Nadu, especially in Chennai, people went to the market in large number to buy vegetables actually. Okay, so how do you explain this behavior? Awareness is there, but it does not work. So can we change the behavior of these people by way of persuading them, telling them individually not to go to other places or to follow all kinds of norms? So moral suasion is another kind of approach which we will have to adopt, but we have to study whether moral suasion also makes the people to change their behavior. Similarly, we have economic instruments. For example, police. If somebody violates the kind of lockdown norms. If people are coming by two-wheeler during lockdown, then immediately they are being charged with fine. Okay, how much fine? 500 rupees, 2,000 rupees, for example. One of the transportation vehicle driver, he told me, sir, police fined me with 2,000 rupees and I went, to the public place during lockdown. So heavy fine. Can we put heavy fine on these people? So that, will that change the behavior of the people, or can we give punishment on the roadside? I have seen in TV news channels that police giving kind of punishments to the violators. Actually, can that change the behavior of the people in future? Or can we frame the kind of awareness programs in such a way that it conveys some strong message to these violators? So how do we frame the awareness program? Can we just ask some leading figures like Rajinikanth, for example, to tell us that we have to be strictly following the norms, whether that will change the behavior of the people? It's called framing, actually. You provide awareness message, but if this message is given by some celebrities, it will have some more impact. Can we do that? So we have to study this. Okay. And similarly, there are things like default mechanism. For example, yesterday I went to a shop. There, they said, you have to wash your hand before entering the shop. Actually, they have everything. So you have to enter. So that enter your hand. So that becomes default mechanism. Whether we can make this as a default mechanism after washing your hand, when you enter the shop, you have this sanitizer also. They provide sanitizer also. Okay, so we can think about a kind of mechanism like this. In every crowded place, you provide wash facilities where you can wash your hands, as well as hand sanitizers. Even if you miss washing your hands, you can use sanitizers, and therefore everybody is getting sanitized. Okay, can we make that as a default mechanism? So I have just listed out some of these measures, but I'm not sure whether one of these measures works better, or all these measures work better, or some of these measures work better. We have to think about it. And I would encourage the youngsters to take up research on some of these issues. Okay. For example, we can say that, look, you people will have to wash your hands, you have to maintain social distance, even at home, etc., etc. But I have observed people on TV channels telling us that, look, government tells us that we have to keep washing our hands, we have to maintain social distance, but where is water? I am willing to wash my hands very often, but there is no water. No, water, not even for drinking purpose. We have to accept the fact that there are many households who do not get adequate water supply, even for drinking purpose, let alone talk about washing their hands, actually. So the government should now focus on providing good quality water supply. We have to make these facilities available to the people so that they can follow these norms, actually, right? So that is the kind of future action that we all will have to think about. How to provide water supply to people, how to provide healthcare facilities to people, because who are the people who are getting killed by COVID-19? It is basically the people with comorbidities. What is this? You have sugar patients, diabetic patients, you have patients with TB, you have patients with other kinds of ailments, and so on and so forth. So if people are already having these comorbidities, then they have a kind of higher probability of getting killed by the the COVID-19 actually. So therefore, it is not only the healthcare facilities that should be provided to the COVID-19 people, but also we have to very effectively deal with the already existing diseases so that the impact will be the COVID impact will be less in future. Similarly, what we have found in India, especially in Kerala and Tamil Nadu, is that the government is using alternate medicines also. For example, yesterday I heard about this herbal tea. Herbal tea is being served in Coimbatore area. Similarly, they also serve the Siddha medical practitioners. Government has asked the Siddha medical practitioners to engage 6 autos, Kabasura Paneer herbal tea supply to all the people in the COVID affected area, especially in Coimbatore area, which was worst affected. But now that there is no further COVID cases. So because of the alternate medicines, your immune system improves, and therefore you are not getting affected by COVID-19. And therefore, it's a possibility that in future the government can promote alternate medicines among the people, so that we can save people. Similarly, what I have observed during this COVID-19 crisis is that our environmental quality has improved a lot. There is water pollution, no air pollution, and therefore there is no death because of air pollution. I said 18 lakh people are getting killed by air pollution every year, but because of COVID-19, we have minimized the death, we have minimized the morbidity caused by air pollution or water pollution. Okay, every year around 5 to 10 trillion 5 to 10 trillion worth of damage is being caused by environmental problems in India. This is what a World Bank study has found. So now, because of COVID-19, there is no production, there is less consumption, and therefore there is less pollution, or there is no pollution. But once the economy is, once the lockdown is relaxed, we are going to have more environmental, we're going to have more deaths, more diseases of environmental problem. How are we going to deal with this? So we have to be very cautious about our consumption. We have to be very cautious about our production. We should always think about consuming less, consuming reasonably. Of course, poor people cannot consume less. I am talking about the rich. We have to think about environmentally friendly consumption, environmentally friendly production. Even if environmentally non-friendly production takes place, like for example, textile units in Tirupur and leather unit in Amburwadi area, we have to strictly follow environmental norms. We have to control pollution. Okay? So that is what we have to think about in future, because COVID-19 has proved that environmental quality of minimizing consumption and production. But in the coming years, we have to consume, we have to produce, but consumption and production will have to be environmentally friendly in nature. Similarly, we have to think about all these kinds of things, because our Prime Minister has suggested that hereafter we have to be self-reliant, which is very important. We have to think about how to be self-reliant. Okay, what do you mean by self-reliant? It does not necessarily mean that we have to consume only indigenous product. It means that any foreign company can come to India and produce goods and services which should benefit Indian people. For example, there are people who may buy Benz car. Benz car is produced by a foreign company, but Benz car can be produced within India, which should benefit the Indian people in terms of employment, income, and consumption. Okay, so that is what is called self-reliance. Therefore, we have to think about how to be self-reliant in terms of consumption. in terms of production and so on and so forth. For example, when we talk about MSME sector, micro, small, medium enterprises, micro, small, and medium enterprises, they have greater potential in terms of working on value-added products. For example, our agricultural produces, they are always being used for final consumption. For example, tomato, if there is no price for tomato, then tomato is thrown on the streets. If there is no price for mango, mangoes are thrown on the streets. Very recently, I have seen people, throwing the grapes in I think Kodaikanal region. Grapes, very valuable grapes, just on the field itself. Flowers cultivated, they are just thrown in the field itself, in the agricultural land itself. Okay, so why not we think about developing our own indigenous kind of our own MSMEs to focus on converting these products into value added. Okay? In future, we have to think about this area. For example, I came across this Palmyra products. Okay, you have gur coming out of Palmyra. This thing. Okay, you have nungu, for example. There is no technology that process nungu and then export it to other countries. In Tamil Nadu, we have millions and millions of Palmyra trees, but the products from Palmyra trees are not being developed adequately. Value-added product is not coming out. For example, if you eat Palmyra candy or gur from Palmyra, your immune system improves. You can deal with diabetic kind of issues very effectively with consuming Palmyra products. But why these are not promoted? When we are talking about self-reliance, why are we not developing products of our own? Right, Palmyra and coconut trees. There are millions and millions of coconut trees in Tamil Nadu, but there is no value-added product. I have seen, people in abroad, they process tender coconut water and then export it. For example, Thailand does that. Why not Tamil Nadu? Why not India? We talk about self-reliance, but we are not thinking about how to be promoting our own kind of industries and things like that. Okay, so basically, one more thing about behavior. What we have found during this COVID crisis is that there are a lot of people who have helping tendency, who have helped others actually. I have seen a lot of people. See these kind of other regarding behavior cropping up, flourishing everywhere during COVID-19. But why you don't find this other regarding behavior during normal years? Why people are not helping the poorer people? So if people are helping the poorer people in normal period, then we can eliminate poverty, we can eliminate inequality, we can eliminate all kinds of sufferings by the poorer people actually. So we need to study this very carefully. How to make people to adopt other regarding behavior during normal period so that we can deal with poverty and so on and so forth. Friends, because of paucity of time, I will stop here. Thank you very much for listening to me. I think that we have already crossed our time limit, and I would like to you to think about all these kinds of things that we have discussed seriously in the coming years, and then change the behavior of the people in a positive manner, because we are going to live with coronavirus, we are going to live with other diseases also, we are going to live with poverty, we are going to live with environmental problems in future also. So we have to change our behavior, we have to change others' behavior also. We have to seriously think about it. And thank you very much for your patient listening. Now I would like to take some questions if there are some questions. I hope there will be several questions. Please.
Thanks, Sir Venkatachalam.
Yeah.
Dear participants, now you can ask you some questions to the resource person. He will answer. I think the session handled by Professor Venkatachalam was very useful and informative. When I read his article in Tamil Hindu in the last week, I, along with my research scholar, Hussain, we have decided to host a webinar with the help of Professor Venkatachalam. So it is now over. If you have any query, doubt, or suggestion, you can share with the resource persons so that the webinar will be a complete one. Or you can send your questions through chatting.
Someone, for example, has asked how the Indian government is going to generate 20 lakhs. There is a concept called deficit financing in economics. Okay, so you just print money and then distribute it, or you have already got some sources. For example, government now may think about diverting some money that is being used for constructing some, building, parliament building, for example, and that money can be diverted for, stimulus package actually. Similarly, the central government has given directions to make use of certain money that has been already allocated to the state governments for COVID-19 related activities. There are sources actually. I don't have the list of sources readily available, but if you indeed make an effort to find out the sources, there are sources. So deficit financing is one of the major sources, and therefore indeed there are sources for this 20 lakh crores. Yeah. Any question? So everybody has appreciated my talk actually, like the session was useful, etc. But if there are questions, then we'll take those questions.
Okay, Professor.
Anybody having any questions?
Professor.
Yeah.
Professor.
Please go ahead.
Sir, what would be the fate of migrant laborers in the post-COVID era? What would be the fate of migrant laborers in the post-COVID era?
Okay. See, migrant laborers, basically how many migrant laborers are there? They are there, which state they belong to. This particular information not readily available to the government to make certain measures to safely send the migrant laborers back to their state actually. But in future, I have also suggested this in my article, the article that has appeared in Tamil Hindu. In future, every state government will have to have information about migrant laborers, both the migrant laborers, those who are coming into the state, where are they coming from, where are they staying, what kind of the work they do, how many family members are there, so on and so forth. Similarly, how many migrant laborers are going out of Tamil Nadu, for example. So you have to have information about where are they going, who is employed, who is employing these migrant laborers, and so on and so forth. Okay. So if we have information about the migrant laborers, basic information, then the state governments can take a lot of initiatives to improve their welfare. For example, whether housing facilities, their children need education facilities, whether they need food grains so that they can be given grains through the local media shops, right? So all kinds of welfare measures, not only the welfare measures related to COVID-19, but all kinds of welfare measures to migrant laborers, we formulate once you get information. That is why I always place my emphasis on it. Okay.
Thank you, Professor.
Okay.
Thank you, Professor.
Professor,
Handle the pandemic situation more easily by having proper planning and roadmap. The
Yeah.
point is that, yes, what is that proper planning? Can you, right now the government has come out with planning, roadmap. Think that this is okay in the find that there are some problems, then try to this problem, right? Rather than blindly, as academicians, we have to contribute in the government, right? You have to communicate these kinds of things. And for the government is planning, all parties are ready to give money for votes. COVID-19, they are not ready to help neighbors. Point is, that's a political question actually, but despite government, other people, so philanthropy, sympathy, other regarding here, all these are I cited this in material. Beggar, he was distributing this bread to the hungry road. Everything is there. Who do not have income, right? Even with the beggar. Therefore, explore this particular kind of others, okay? So we need more research, right? For example, people can generate, contribute to as long as when the many people can't, but I don't where open friends are contributing. People always suspect others. If I give some whether he will use this to buy something, whether he will use it for they have doubt. And at the moment I come to know that this may use this money for buying liquor, I will stop giving it. What circumstances people are trying to contribute to others? We have to find out. We have to do more research, right?
Sir, can you close the session, Professor?
Sure.
So, okay.
I
Okay,
hope.
thank you. I personally thank the resource person, Dr. Venkatachalam, for his valuable and informative lecture on the behavioral changes that the people have to follow in the years to come. Because we have to live with COVID-19. There is no other way out of living without COVID-19 for the years to come. Therefore, at this juncture, I would record my personal thanks on behalf of the Madurai Kamaraj University Social Transformation Center to Dr. Venkatachalam and all other participants and all the 660 participants who have registered for this particular session on behavioral changes in the post-COVID-19 era. Now, the vote of thanks will be proposed by Dr. A. Kannan, Assistant Professor in the Department of Environmental Economics, who is a member of Advisory Committee of Social Transformation Center. Now, over to Kannan.
Very good morning to one and all. I'm really happy to thank all the participants and resource person first. First, I would like to thank our Honorable Vice Chancellor for his brief introduction on this inaugural session. And I would like to thank the Registrar of Madhuri Kamaraj University and other administrative officials of the university for their kind and support for the successful completion of the webinar. And I would like to thank on behalf of the Social Transaction Center and on behalf of Madhuri Kamaraj University and all the participants, I thank our resourceful resource person, Dr. L. Venkatachalam, Professor R.P. Chair, Madras Institute of Development Studies, Chennai, for his incredible lecture on the topic behavioral changes in the post-COVID-19 era. Sir, you have started session very nicely by stating that our author of economics, Adam Smith law of invisible hand, and mentioned very clear about we are going to live not in normal life, but in new normal life in the after COVID-19 periods. And you have mentioned very clear about, sir, related to the new normal life going to be faced by us in the form of some default mechanism that I rightly mentioned certain points related to the people for public awareness for fighting against the COVID-19 crisis. And I would like to thank all the participants for their active participation and valuable questions during this technical session. But not and least, I thank my dear scholar who is not seen in the screen but worked a lot for the webinar, none other than our scholar Sahuddin Yaqub Khan for this nice execution of this webinar. I once again thank all the participants and the resource person and the coordinator of the technical session, Dr. K. Sadasivam sir, for the successful completion of the webinar. Thank you, one and all.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Professor. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah.
Professor, thank you. Our inventor.
Stop.